Hey, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. Glad you could join us. Today is Beginning Guitar Lesson 1. We all got to start somewhere, right? So this is the starting place if you want to learn to play guitar. So let's just get to it. Before we actually begin your lesson, I want to talk a little about how I go about actually teaching in the video format. I take advantage of this format by demonstrating things one or two times, maybe three, and then I rely on you to rewind and then review again and again until it clicks in your head. Additionally, to whatever graphics you see on screen, you will have it in the written form. The video is actually a companion to the written. The written material is the main source of your information. And so you don't need to be a slave to the video. You have it all written down so you can go off away from your computer and focus on the lesson itself. This is my approach to teaching through video lessons. All right? Now, let's get started with first things first. Show you your way around the guitar, and then we'll get to actually learning some chords. All right? All right. The first thing we want to do is go over some of the things of the guitar. And I have a little graphic over here highlighting the parts of the guitar that are kind of important to helping you learn to play. Now, this is true whether it's an acoustic guitar, as I'm showing here, or an electric guitar. They are synonymous in the way they're laid out. There's no difference. So you'll see on the grid over here, the big thick black line at the top. That is the nut, and that's what this is here. This white thing on the guitar itself is the nut. It's the big thick black line in the diagram. The thin lines below that running horizontally are frets, the silver things here on the guitar itself. The vertical lines are string representative of strings. From left to right, you'll see it's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right, as shown right there. Now, the first string is the smallest string. The sixth string is the biggest string, so it actually runs in order of size, low to high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Okay. Now, you'll see the black dots on the grid itself. That actually represents a chord. Okay, so what we're looking at technically is a chord diagram. And that's the other reason I want to start here and show you this. Not only are we describing the bits, but we're also showing you what a chord diagram looks like, because that's what we're going to be using. Now, you'll notice on the second string, second string down at the first fret. Now this is the first fret, so we say at the first fret, even though it's technically behind it. We see our first finger, and that's what the 1 is up here above the nut. Now you'll notice an open circle here and here. That means open string. Open string simply means a string that has you're not fretting it with your finger. So it's called a fretted note when you're using your finger. It's an open string when no fretting is taking place, okay? So second string, first fret with the first finger, all right? Then we move over to the fourth string, and you see a 2 when we go down here, and the 2 is at the second fret, even though it's technically right behind it, right? But we say at the second fret on the fourth string. Then on the fifth string, you'll see a 3 up here, and you come down and you see our third finger is on the fifth string at the third fret. Technically, this is a C chord, and you'll be learning that chord here soon enough. Then you'll notice the X up here. That X means this string is not played, so we either have to mute it or just not play it. And I'll show you how to do that as well. All right? Now, the names of the strings. We have E, A, D, G, B, E from left to right. The acronym Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. That's a good way to remember it, right? So from 6 to 1, E, A, D, G, B, E. All right? So here's what you want to do. Pause the video and take a few minutes to kind of start the memorization process here, learning all these little bits I've given you so far. Again, whether you're on electric or on acoustic, it doesn't matter. The information is exactly the same. It applies in both instances. An electric guitar is just a guitar you plug in and you can make it really loud. An acoustic guitar is organic, right? There's no amplification except how hard you play the strings. All right, so again, pause, start the memorization process, and when you're ready to continue, press play. So I want to talk a little about tuning the guitar. So I got my tuner on here and I've got it facing you. Normally you have it facing yourself so that you can see it, but I want to show you what to do. So we're going to start with the low E string, go E, A, D, G, B, E. We're going to do low to high. And so we're going to start with low E. Now you press that. Now I'm going to detune it a little bit to show you what you do. Now you'll notice here you got all these lines below the E. That means it's flat. Flat is like a tire without air. It's low. So you want to add air, as it were. You want to raise the tire up so it's full, right? So we're going to, in tuning, raise the pitch, make it higher. So you don't just crank the tuner, you hit the string and then slowly turn, hitting it every couple of seconds, until on this tuner, you have two blue lines above and below the E. All right, and there you're in tune. Now we'll go to the next string, the A string, the fifth string, and you'll notice this too is a little low, right? So we do the same thing. Hit the string every couple of seconds while we slowly turn it until both blue lines, as you can see there, above and below the A. Now we're going to go to the D string, and that's the fourth string. Now you'll notice this is sharp. Sharp is above the pitch it's supposed to be. It's high. So we want to let a little air out using the tire analogy. So what we have to do is, instead of just tuning down to the pitch, you actually want to keep going till you're just a little below the pitch, because you want to tune up to the pitch. See, if you tune down, you're relaxing the string. We want to tune up so that you're getting positive tension on the string. So we go below the pitch and we bring it up to pitch, like that. And then that's how you do it. We go onto the G string. That happens to be in tune. We're going to leave it alone. The B string, that's also in tune. We're going to leave that alone. Go to the high E string. Okay, that's a little wonky. It blinked, so I'm going to drop the pitch down just a little bit and bring it up. Just like that. The first chord you're going to learn to play is the almighty E. Now you'll notice the diagram is vertical like this. Whoops, like this. But the guitar neck is horizontal like this. So this is what an E looks like. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your first finger at the first fret and you're going to count from the first string, 1, 2, 3, and that's where your first finger goes. Now you want to stand it up. All right. Now, your second finger is on the fifth string, so you'll go on the second fret. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, get your first finger right behind the fret so that your second finger can be close to the fret. You want to get as close to the frets as possible. Now, your third finger is on the fourth string on the same fret as your second string. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you'll notice I've got them hugging together, and you'll notice something else. This finger overlaps this just a little bit. The third finger is actually right on the fret, as you can see, but the second finger is just a little behind the fret, further a little bit back, so that it makes room for your third finger. You can't put them side by side like that, because the back of this finger is going to touch that string, which is being played by that finger. So notice too how they are literally standing straight up and down. Okay, there we go. See that? And that's the idea. Now you bring your thumb up, and this part of the thumb cup the neck, but leave your thumb hanging out like that. And that will be, you're kind of doing this. You're kind of almost making a fist with your thumb sticking out, right? And then with the right hand in the little window on the lower right, strum real simple, like that. Oops, let me turn it up. And that's what it's supposed to sound like. Now, let's talk a little bit about this. Notice my finger is not quite touching the fourth string, and that's so the back of this finger is not going to be touching the second string. So you do this so that the back of the finger isn't touching that open B string. And the same thing can be said about the third finger. You can almost touch this string. That's so that the back of the third finger isn't touching the third string, which your first finger is actually playing. Now, bring your second finger in there. Now, you can almost touch the low E, but you don't want to touch it because that's part of the chord. You see the open circle right down there, right? That means that's open along with the B string and the high E string, the second and the first strings as well. So just practice that and just strum down. And just a gentle strum. Don't press into the guitar. Just take your pick and let it glide across. All right? So, let me talk about the pick for a moment. Let's talk a little about the pick. Now, I hold the pick like this. There, I've got it. Yeah, okay. So, now you'll notice a little of the pick is sticking out above my thumb. Not a whole lot. And then you'll notice not a whole lot of sticking out below the bottom of my thumb. And I just use a thumb and a finger, and you'll notice that not much is sticking out below the finger either. So I got a lot of my first finger hanging out on that pick as well to keep a hold of it so it doesn't go flying away. Now, on the lower bow, and it doesn't matter really how big the guitar is, you want to put part of your forearm there so that your pick is kind of in this place, kind of between the neck and the bridge. You want to be a little on the neck side. Now on an acoustic guitar, you got a big hole right there, so you're going to be just a little on the neck side from the middle of the hole, just past the middle of the hole on the top of it. All right? So then what you do is you just gently drag the pick across the strings. You don't press in hard like that. You just gently drag it across. And that'll give you the best, most pleasant sound. And I'm playing the mighty E chord as we speak, so now you have an idea what it really sounds like. Just practice this a little bit. Now, it's going to take a little while for you to get used to the pick. And if you're on an acoustic guitar, that big hole there, that is a vacuum cleaner. It will suck your pick into it as quick as you can say, don't eat my pick. And that's why you don't want to hold on to the pick like this, just barely holding on. You want to get a good bit of your thumb across that pick and your finger, right? And that ensures you won't lose the pick. Like I said, you want to angle the pick down a little bit like this too, so it glides across pretty nice and smooth. So pause the video, take a few minutes, get comfortable with this. And bear in mind, it's going to take a little while for you to get comfortable holding the pick to where it feels natural. All right? Okay. The second chord today is the A chord. Now, you'll notice that you have the X over the low E string. And then you've got an open circle on the 5th string and on the 1st string. That's an open string. That means they're not fretted, but they are going to be played, and you're going to hear the open A and the open E, the high E. Your second finger will come from 1, 2, 3 to the 4th string in the 2nd fret. So all 3 fingers are going to be on the 2nd fret. So your 3rd finger comes 1, 2, 3. Your 4th finger goes 1, 2. Now notice I've got this joint bent almost 90 degrees. So these are standing almost straight up and down off the guitar. So they're perpendicular to the neck, to the fretboard. All right. Now you want this finger to almost touch the 3rd string because you want the back of the finger to not touch the high E string. The 2nd finger is not touching, but almost on the A string. So it's very close, as you can see. Now, remember I had your thumb like this when you were playing the E chord? Well, what I want you to do is I want you to pull your thumb back like this. And this is called the shoulder of the neck. And I want you to put your thumb, that first joint, halfway across that. And then I want you to slightly squeeze like that so that you're muting the low E string. That's the X, right? So now you go across it slow, this is what you'll hear. So you have the open A and the open high E. And then you have the D string with your 2nd finger, the G string with your 3rd finger, and the B string with your 4th finger, all at the 2nd fret. So go ahead and just strum that a few times and get comfortable with it. Pause the video, and if you need to rewind, remember, this is what this is all about, and watch the description again. Go ahead and do that. And then pause and practice this chord for a few minutes. Get comfortable with it. All right? Then, when you're ready to move forward, press play. Let's look at the D chord now. Now you'll notice we have an X on the low E again, but now we have an open A and an open D. And then we're fretted on the top 3 strings. So take your first finger and go 1, 2, 3 at the 2nd fret. Your 2nd finger, 1, right there on the 1st string on the 2nd fret as well. And you'll notice I've got the 1st finger halfway between the 1st and the 2nd fret to make room for the 2nd finger, which is right behind the fret. Bring your 3rd finger in on the 2nd string at the 3rd fret. Again, notice how these are almost, well, particularly the 2nd and the 3rd finger standing straight up and down. The 3rd finger, you absolutely want to get as close to the 3rd string as possible without touching it because you're playing that string. And you want to stand it up as straight as possible so the back of the finger isn't touching the 1st string, which is being played by your 2nd finger at the 2nd fret. Again, bring your thumb onto the shoulder and then just gently squeeze until you're touching the low E string. Now, strum all 5 strings nice and slow. And that's what it should sound like. Now you can hit the 6th string too, just to make sure it's muted. And then play it a little quicker. And you can't hear that. And that's a D chord. So, pause the video Again, rewind if you must to watch the demonstration of how to put it together and practice this for a few minutes. Then, when you're ready, press play. All right, we're going to take the E, the A, and the D chords and put them into a little progression. Now, you've got the written material, so lay that out before you so you can see all three chords and how they're supposed to be played. Now, in the diagram, you'll see 4 diagonal lines in each measure. Each one of those sections separated by a vertical line is called a measure. And that 4/4 thing, that's just a common timekeeping device, meaning there's 4 beats to the measure. And so you're going to do 4 strums to the measure. And I'm going to demonstrate what you're going to do. You're going to play E, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to switch to the A chord and play 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to switch to the D chord and play 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to move back to the E chord and play 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to start all over again. So here's what you're going for, ideally. Then you start again. And just keep going. Now, once you get comfortable with that, and the object is that you get a steady state going here with your strumming hand so that on the next beat, when you're supposed to change chords in the new measure, that you do it smooth and flowing. So it's like, this is why you want to count too. And I want you to learn to count while you play. This is important. And I'll get into all of that later down the road, why this matters. Okay, so you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and so forth. Okay? So you notice it was smooth and steady. This is the goal. And we'll get into how you'll use the metronome in another lesson so that you can then begin to really learn to dial in how to play smooth and flowing. All right, so pause the video and take your time here. Really work on this. Moving between the chords, nice and smooth, as best you're able. All right? Then when you're ready to continue, press play. Right now, your fingers are screaming at you. I'm almost sure of it. But take comfort in this. That's a good thing and a necessary thing, because it gets you started on the journey to toughening up those fingers so that you're going to be able to play as long as you want. And bear in mind, every guitar player, myself included, we know your pain. We don't just sympathize, we empathize, because we felt it, we feel it, and we know it. And you know, every guitar player is with you in this. They know, and they're here, and I can speak for them to encourage you. Don't quit. The reward is worth the temporary discomfort. Play every day and don't quit. We're with you. every step of the way. When you're ready for the next lesson, when I get it up there, go ahead and dive into it with a relish. All right? And we'll see you there.